welcome back to my After Effects tutorial channel. This is Randy from Ran's Graphics, and before we will start, I just want to let you know guys that learning from others is one of the vital ingredients for achieving proficiency. Okay, so if you learn something from me, don't hesitate to share it to others. Instead, be proud of it because you deserve it. So guys, without any further ado, I'm gonna show you what we are gonna be making today. Let me begin by creating a new composition, and I will name it placeholder 1. 1920 by 1080p, 30 frames per second and 6 seconds duration. Click OK. Go to your project panel and open the folder assets. Open this Technoclips folder. Drop down the footage into the timeline. Press S on your keyboard for the scale. Scale it down to 52%. Then go to composition, create a new composition. I will name it technology text. The width is 800 and the height is 130 frames per second and 6 seconds duration. Click OK. I will zoom it in. Then I will grab my text tool and type technology. I use the font called Arial. Narrow, the size is 72 pixels and the tracking is 84. Center it. Then go to the layer and expand it. Choose animate. Select this opacity. Make sure that the opacity is 0%. Expand this range selector. Make a keyframe on the start. Expand this advance. Turn on the randomize order and create a keyframe on the random seed. Move your playhead forward to 15 frames. Change the start to 44%. Then move forward your playhead to 1 second duration. Change this start value to 100%. Then move forward your playhead again to 1 second and 10 frames duration. Then hit the tiny diamond in here to create a keyframe. Then move forward your playhead to 1 frame and change the value on your start to 90%. Then move forward your playhead to 2 seconds and 8 frames. Hit the tiny diamond in here to create a keyframe and go to the random seed and change the value here to 132. Then move forward your playhead to 1 frame. Then change this value on the start to 100%. Highlight this keyframe. Press F9 to ease it. Go to composition and create a new composition. I will name it slideshow text. Same, 800 by 100 pixels, 30 frames per second and 6 seconds duration. Click OK. Grab the text tool and type slideshow. This time I'm gonna change the font size here to 26. Tracking, I will change this to 466. Narrow, I will change this to regular. Then align it to the center. Expand this layer. Hit this tiny icon. Choose opacity. Make sure that the opacity here is 0. Expand this range selector. Create a keyframe on the start. Expand this advance. Turn on the randomize order and create a keyframe on the random seed. Move your playhead forward to 15 frames and change the start value here to 44%. Then move forward your playhead to 1 second and change the start value to 100% and change the random seed order to 18. Then go back to this second keyframe, highlight it, press F9 to ease it. Then go to composition and create a new composition. Name this advanced text. I will change the height here to 500 and the width is still 800, 30 frames per second and 6 seconds duration. Click OK. Then I will drop down this technology text into the timeline and the slideshow. Move your playhead to 10 frames. Highlight this layer, press open bracket E to move that layer. I will move forward my playhead to 2 seconds to see the text here. Then press P on my keyboard for the position. Drag down the slideshow text below the technology. I'll just type here the value to 314. Highlight the technology text and go to Effects and Preset. Go to Transition, Black Dissolve. Create a keyframe on the transition completion, black width and black height. Change the transition completion to 100% and the black width change this to 80. Then the feather change this to 0.5. Uncheck the soft edges. Move forward your playhead to 1 second and change the transition completion to 0. Press UU to see the keyframes. Hit the tiny diamond in here to create a keyframe. Effects and Preset, go to Expression Controls. Choose this slider control. Move this up above the black dissolve. Move your playhead at the beginning of the timeline. Equip the technology text to the slider. Then create a keyframe here. Then move forward your playhead to 1 second and change this to 100%. Disable the black dissolve. Then highlight this slideshow text. Move back your playhead to the beginning of this slideshow text layer. Go to Effects and Preset. Go to Transition. Choose this black dissolve. Create a keyframe on the transition completion, black width and black height. Change the feather value here to 0.5. Then uncheck the soft edges. Change the transition completion here to 100%. Then move forward your playhead to 1 second and 10 frames. Then change the transition completion to 0. Black width, change this to 200. And the black height, change this to 100. I'm gonna go back to the beginning of the slideshow layer here. Press U on your keyboard to see the keyframes. I'll just change the black width here to 200. Then go to Effects and Preset. Go to Expression Controls, Slider Control. Move this slider control above the black dissolve. Equip this black dissolve to this slider control. Then create a keyframe on the slider control. Change the amount here to 40. Then move forward your playhead to 1 second and 10 frames duration. And change this slider amount to 100. Disable the black dissolve. Go to Composition. Create a new composition. I will name it Polygon Shape. The width is 700 and the height is 700. Frame rate is 30 and still the duration is 6 seconds. Click OK. I will turn on the title action shape in here. Zoom it out a bit. Grab the shape tool. Choose this polygon tool and draw a pentagon like this. Expand the polygon path. Change the points here to 6 and change the outer radius to 320.5 and the rotation I will change this to 30. Then I will align it at the center. Make sure that there's no stroke, only fill, okay? Go to your project panel and make sure that this polygon shape is highlighted. Ctrl D, duplicate it. Rename this polygon stroke. Double click it to open it up. Then highlight this shape layer. Fill is none. And enable the stroke. Change the stroke to 5. Then highlight the shape layer 1, go to the stroke color, change the color to teal. I will just type the code 3E D9 D8, then click OK. For composition, create a new composition. I will name it polygon clippings. 120 by 1080p, 30 frames per second, 6 seconds duration. Click OK. Go to the project panel and drop down this placeholder 1 into the timeline. Drop down this stroke and drop down this polygon shape in between the polygon stroke and the placeholder. Then highlight it all. Enable 3D layers. Press S on your keyboard for the scale. Set the value on the scale of placeholder 1 to 70%. Set the value on the polygon shape to 50%. Polygon stroke 53%. I will highlight this placeholder 1, toggle switch smooth linear, and change the track material to alpha matte. Then highlight all these compositions, go to edit, duplicate it, change the color code here to cyan, drag it up. Then I will highlight this polygon stroke and polygon shape, press P on my keyboard for the position, move it on the right side. Highlight the TL compositions, go to edit and duplicate it. Then change the color code here to fuchsia, drag it up. Highlight the polygon stroke and polygon shape. Press P on my keyboard for the position. I will move it up. Just like that. Then I will again close it and highlight all these pink compositions. Go to edit and duplicate it. Change the color code here to brown. Then move it up. Highlight this polygon stroke and polygon shape. Press P on your keyboard for the position. Drag it on the left side. Like that. Then I will highlight it all. Press P on my keyboard for the position. Highlight these two brown compositions. Create a keyframe on the position by hitting this stopwatch. Change the Z value here to -600. Then move forward your playhead to 1 second and 15 frames duration. Then change the Z value here to 0. Then highlight these two pink compositions. Hit the stopwatch in here to create a keyframe. Move your playhead back to the beginning of the timeline and change the value on your Z position to -400. Then I will highlight this cyan polygon stroke and polygon shape. Create a keyframe by hitting the stopwatch and set the value on the Z position to -600. Then move forward your playhead to 1 second and 15 frames. Set the Z value to 0. Then I will highlight the last polygon stroke and polygon shape. Hit this stopwatch on the position to create a keyframe. Then move back my playhead to the beginning of the timeline. Set the Z value here to -400. Highlight all these keyframes. Then press F9 to ease it. Open the graph editor. Highlight this corner and drag the handles on the left side. Highlight these three compositions. Move my playhead to 10 frames. Press open bracket key on my keyboard to move those layers. Forward my playhead to another 10 frames, which is 20 frames duration. I will highlight these cyan compositions. Press my keyboard open bracket key to move those layers. Move my playhead another 10 frames, which is 1 second duration. Highlight these pink compositions. Press open bracket key to move those layers. Move my playhead forward to another 10 frames, which is 1 second and 10 frames duration. Highlight these brown compositions. Press open bracket key to move those layers. So now I'm gonna go to composition and create a new composition, and I will name it Add Elements. (1920 by 1080p, 30 frames per second and 6 seconds duration). Click OK. Now I will go to my project panel and create a folder. I will name it Sequence Comps. Create another folder and I will name it Common Comps. Open the folder assets, go to pre-rendered sequence, highlight this all and drag it to create a new compositions. Make sure that you check these multiple compositions. Click OK. Now I will drag these compositions to the sequence comps folder. Now I will open the sequence comps. Drag all the compositions that you don't need to tweak while making your scenes on the common comps folder. I will also open this texture. I will create a composition by dragging it in here. So now I will open the sequence comps and the common comps. Drag randomly all these elements into the timeline and position it according to your choice, okay? I will just speed it up, guys, so that you will not be waiting for a long time, okay? Highlight the text block and text block 2, drop it down into the timeline. Enable 3D layers, press T on your keyboard for the opacity, Shift P for the position. I'll change the opacity here to 50%. Then I will highlight this text block and move it on the right side, then move it up. And I will highlight this text block 2, move it on the left side, move it down a bit. Go to project panel and drop down this advanced text into the timeline. Enable the 3D layer, move it on the left side. Check it out, just like that. Highlight it, go to effects and preset, go to generate fill. Then change the color here. I'll type the color code 207 F8B and click OK. Then go back to the project panel and drop down these dots into the timeline. Then go to effects and preset, generate fill. Now if we will preview this one, let's see. This is what it looked like. So now I'm gonna go to composition and create a new composition, and I will name it media 1. 1920 by 1080p, 30 frames per second and 6 seconds duration. Click OK. I'll go back to the project panel and drop down this placeholder one into the timeline. Enable 3D layer, press T on your keyboard for the opacity. Set the opacity here to 5%. Highlight the placeholder one, go to effects and preset color correction, add 10. Press S on your keyboard for the scale. Change the scale to 120. Go back to the project panel and drop down these hard elements into the timeline. Enable collapse transformation switching here and move your playhead forward, and as you can see, now I will go to composition and create a new composition, and I will name it blacks. I will change the width here to 2000 and the height is 2000. Click OK. Then I will go to layer, new solid. I will name it fractal. Make it comp size, click OK. Then go to effects and preset, noise and grain, fractal noise. Fractal type is basic. Set the value on the contrast to 735. Then open transform. Change the scale to 450. Go to evolution, press your keyboard alt and hold it. Click the stopwatch on the evolution to create an expression. Type open parenthesis time multiplied by 150. Then close parenthesis. Then go back to effects and preset, go to stylize, add mosaic. Then change the horizontal block to 5. Open the media, drop the blacks into the timeline and toggle switches mode in here. I will change the blending mode here to add. Again, toggle switches modes. I just want to enable the 3D layer. Press T on your keyboard for opacity. Set the value here to 5%. Go back to the project panel and drop down these polygon clippings into the timeline. Go back to your project panel, open this project assets, go to textures, open it up and drop this dust into the timeline. Press S on your keyboard, put a scale it up. Then change the blending mode here to screen. Press T on your keyboard for opacity. Change the opacity here to 10%. Then go to footage, open it up, drop this, make this composition first. Then open media 1 and drop these optical flares into the timeline. Change the blending mode here to add. Go to effects and preset, color correction, add tritone. Then change the color here to FFE98B. Click OK. Highlight these optical flares and press T on your keyboard for opacity and change the opacity here to 25%. Go back to your project panel, drag these optical flares to the common comps, also the dust, and these two polygon shape, polygon stroke. Create a folder here and I will name it scene 1. Highlight these compositions and drag it to the scene 1 folder. This one, put it on the common comps. Then I will create another folder and I will name it scene 2. Open scene 1 folder, highlight all these compositions, go to edit and duplicate it. Drag the duplicated positions to the scene 2 folder. Highlight all these compositions, double click it to open it up. Delete some of these compositions so that I will have more rooms to work at. First, I will go to the placeholder to open it up. Delete this footage. Go to the assets folder, open it up. Technoclips folder. I will drop this video down into the timeline. Right click my mouse, go to time and enable time remapping. I will extend the layer up to the end of the timeline and move this keyframe at the end of the timeline. Then I will open the technology text. Double click my mouse to change the text here. Science technology. I will center it. Then open slideshow text. Double click my mouse. Change the text here to advanced. I will align it to the center. Then I will open polygon clippings, press my keyboard Alt and hold it, replace the placeholder 1 to placeholder 2. Open scene 2 folder, highlight this placeholder 2, replace the placeholder 1. So this time I will just disable this placeholder 2 above and the stroke so that I will only use 3 hexagons. Open the HUD elements 2 and I will rearrange some of these elements, okay? Position it according to your choice. I will just speed it up guys so that you will not be waiting for a long time. I will go back to Advanced Text 2, press my keyboard Alt and hold it to replace these compositions to 2. Then I will go back to the add elements, change this Advanced Text to Advanced Text 2, press Alt and hold it. And replace it with the advanced text 2. So all I have to do is just to rearrange this and move it in here. I will go back to the advanced text 2, highlight this slideshow text, press P on my keyboard for the position, drag this advanced F. Then go back to the HUD elements. So now it has been changed. Move this text block to above and highlight this text block, drag it down. Move it on the left side. So you can do whatever you want according to your choice, okay? If you want to rearrange the position of these elements. So now I'm gonna go to Media 2, open it up, press my keyboard Alt and hold it. Then replace the polygon clippings to polygon clippings 2. I will also replace the HUD elements to HUD elements 2. Then the placeholder 1, replace it with the placeholder 2. So what I will do now is to go to composition and create a new composition, and I will name it May. 1920 by 1080p, 30 frames per second, and the duration I will change this to 12 seconds. Click OK. Then I will open the scene 1 folder and drop the media 1 into the timeline. Open the scene 2 folder. I will drop this media 2 into the timeline. Move it forward to 5 seconds. I will highlight both of these compositions. Press T on my keyboard for the opacity. Move my playhead forward to the 5 seconds duration and change the value on the opacity to 0 on the media 2. Hit the stopwatch in here to create a keyframe. Hit the stopwatch in the opacity of the media 1. Then move forward your playhead to 6 seconds. Then change the opacity on the media 2 to 100% and the opacity on the media 1 to 0. So let's try to preview it. So guys, we are done with our tutorial and thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoy it and don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, or even share it to your friends. And my thoughts for the day guys is that a negative mindset never leads to a positive life. Okay? So thank you guys for watching and see you next time. God bless.